Squiz Kids acknowledges the traditional owners of the lands on which we podcast, the Turrbal and Gadigal people.
Squiz Kids!
It's your daily news fix. Fun, free, fresh.
Hello and welcome to Squiz Kids Today, your fresh take on what's happening in the world around you. I'm Bryce Corbett. It's Wednesday, February 8. In Squiz Kids Today, the earthquake that shook the world, seal calls in Antarctica, Squiz-E finds a fake, and the great croc escape. That's what's making news, kids style.
The lowdown.
As the planet turned and the sun rose yesterday on the countries of Turkey and Syria, the search for survivors was in full swing after two massive earthquakes caused widespread devastation. Diggers and cranes worked through the night to pull apart the rubble of collapsed apartment buildings in the hope of finding survivors, following the 7.8 and 7.5 magnitude quakes that struck within hours of each other late on Monday night. So, what does 7.8 magnitude mean? It's a scientific measure of the size and power of an earthquake, and 7.8 is right on up there, described by seismologists, who are people whose job it is to monitor the movement of the Earth's crust, as one of the biggest ever recorded in the two countries. But how did it happen? Seismologists, there's that word again, say that this was what's called a strike-slip quake, which occurs when two tectonic plates slide past each other horizontally. You see, the Earth's surface is made up of a jigsaw puzzle of enormous tectonic plates, which are always moving very slowly and very gradually. When two plates push up against one another and don't slide past each other easily, they get stuck, and pressure builds until it becomes so great that the plates are forced past one another very quickly, and that's what causes earthquakes. Where these plates meet is called a fault line, and unfortunately, if cities and towns and buildings are built on or near these fault lines and big earthquakes happen, there's a high chance of widespread damage. I've stuck a link in today's episode notes to an earthquake explainer, as well as a link to a Squiz Kids shortcut on earthquakes and volcanoes, a 10-minute deep dive explaining the science. Meanwhile, send all your good thoughts and best wishes to the people of Turkey and Syria as they take stock of the destruction and try to rebuild their lives.
Spin the globe.
Each day we give the world globe a spin and find a news story from wherever it stops. And today we've landed in the North and South Pole, where the sound of ice singing has been captured for the first time ever. Ice what? I hear you ask. Ice singing, which is what scientists have decided to call the sound that is made underwater as ice shifts and moves and melts. A 2-year scientific project to capture never-before-heard sounds from the Arctic and Antarctica also recorded the sound of minke whales communicating, glaciers tumbling into the sea, and something called a crab-eater seal calling, which sounds a little bit to me like a big old fart. I've stuck a link in today's episode notes for you to have a listen yourselves. Prepare to be amazed, and maybe to have a bit of a giggle.
Animal Kingdom.
Long-time Squiz listeners might remember that last year we told you about some lions who escaped their enclosure at Taronga Zoo in Sydney. Well, this week we've had another animal escapee. This time it's a 3.8 metre saltwater crocodile. Yikes! Dynamo, a word which is used to describe an extremely energetic person, lived up to his name when he bashed his way through a gated Billabong sanctuary just outside of Townsville, North Queensland, earlier this week. The sturdy, salty, stunned visitors who had to be evacuated until the crafty croc could be recaptured. Turns out, Dynamo was just hanging out near another croc enclosure and was able to be enticed out of the water with food and returned to his own enclosure after the gate was repaired and reinforced. He probably just wanted to visit his mates. Can't blame a croc for that.
Newshounds.
Every Wednesday, Squiz-E the Newshound sticks his snout into Squiz Kids HQ to report back on fishy things he's found on the internet. And today, he's found a fake restaurant that rose to the top of an online recommendation site in Canada. The recommendation site is called TripAdvisor. People use it to rate and review hotels and restaurants and bars all over the world, and lots of people refer to it when planning trips or outings. And for the past few months, a restaurant called Le Nouveau Duluth in the Canadian city of Montreal has been listed as the #1 restaurant on TripAdvisor. Except it doesn't exist. Turns out a comedian set up the fake restaurant profile on TripAdvisor and got his friends to post a bunch of positive reviews, sending it to the top of TripAdvisor's algorithm. The comedian said he wanted to show how easy it was to manipulate the algorithm and how unfair and untrue user-generated reviews online can sometimes be. Well done, Squiz-E. Another excellent example of how we should always stop, think and check before believing everything we see, read or hear on the internet. Don't forget, if you want to hone your skills as a newshound, or if you're in charge of a bunch of kids who need to improve their media literacy, our super excellent podcast series Newshounds is ready for you to dive into. Join Squiz-E the Newshound as he teaches kids to be critical consumers of media. It's fun, it's fantastic, and for a limited time it's absolutely free. Check it out at squizkids.com.au or via the link in today's episode notes. Hey folks, don't forget that in partnership with Woolworths, we're in the middle of our search for the ultimate $5 lunchbox. And to shout out to Mackenzie, Tobias and Evelyn from Westbrook in Queensland who suggested pizza scrolls and bliss balls. Yum! At the end of today's podcast, Rosie from Rosie's Recipes will be sharing some lunchbox inspo of her own. And today's recipe is for cool chicken taco cups. Yummo! Be sure to keep listening at the end of this episode.
Time for the quiz.
This is the part of the podcast where you get to test how well you've been listening. Question number 1. What sort of seal makes a noise like a fart? Yeah, that's right, it's a crab-eating seal. Question number 2. What sort of fake establishment did Squiz-E sniff out on the internet? Yeah, that's right, it was a fake restaurant. Question number 3. What's the name of the Townsville crocodile that staged a daring escape from his enclosure this week? Yeah, that's right, it's Dynamo.
Shout outs.
It's February 8, World Day Without Smartphones. Challenge yourself to a digital detox today. I dare you. It's also National Kite Flying Day in the United States, which seems like a perfect thing to do instead of looking at your phone today. It's also a special day for these Squiz Kids celebrating a birthday today. Billy from Oak Park, Harriet from Perth in Tasmania, Ruby from Parabadoo, Morgan from Googong, Coral from French's Forest, Max from Watson, Jaden from Campbelltown, Andrew from Gundagai, and Rosie from Middle Harbour. And belated birthday wishes go to Lola and Emily from Lake Bolac, Harvey from Grovedale, Rain from Skye, Edward from Gymea Bay, and Tate from Gundagai. And classroom shout-outs today go to Mrs. Tennant and her Year 6 class at Cherrybrook Public School, Mr. Elitzi at St. Eugene College in Brisbane, Classes 5 Red and Blue with Mrs. Weir and Miss Kay at St. Agnes Primary School in Brisbane, Mr. Kay and Miss Green at Hammond Park Primary School, and finally, Miss Blunden's class at the Scots School in Albury. Don't forget, if you've got a birthday coming up and you want a shout-out, or if you're after a classroom shout-out, drop us a line at squizkids@thesquiz.com.au or fill out the form on our website. Well, that's all we have time for. Thanks for listening to Squiz Kids today. We'll be back again tomorrow. In the meantime, get out there and have a most excellent day. Over and out.
Rosie's Recipes.
Hello Squiz Kids, it's Rosie here again from Rosie's Recipes as we continue the search with help from our friends at Woolworths for the ultimate $5 lunchbox. Coming up with healthy lunchbox ideas that are easy to prepare, don't cost a bomb, and that kids will actually eat is one of the great challenges of any parent's life. I know because my mum and dad are always telling me. All last week, we asked you to send in ideas for what you'd consider the ultimate lunchbox. And a shout out to Mackenzie, Tobias and Evelyn from Westbrook in Queensland who suggested pizza scrolls and bliss balls. Yum! Today's lunchbox suggestion should be right up their alley. I call them cool chicken taco cups. And after I shopped at my local Woolworths for the ingredients and ran it through the Squiz Kids lunchbox calculator, I can report it's a bargain at $4.57 a serve. Winner, winner, chicken taco dinner. So here's the deal. You're going to take some of those yummy mini tortilla wraps and spray them with oil, then stuff them into a muffin tray. Take your finely chopped chicken breast and stir fry it with an onion, a bit of tomato paste, a tin of drained corn kernels, and chopped up tomato. Once cooked, spoon the mixture into the tortilla cups, sprinkle it all with grated mozzarella, and whack it in the oven. You can prepare a heap and refrigerate them for the week ahead. I like a bit of fresh watermelon on the side, maybe a little pot of yogurt. I've stuck a link to the recipe in today's episode notes. Enjoy!